We'll leave the chat open a little bit longer, but we want to thank everybody for joining us today on today's webinar for Change Your Online Story. You have more control over your online reputation than you think. We all know it's a ratings and review world, and as we have learned, no community can just ignore them in hopes that the reviews will just go away. That would be easy. The good news is you don't have to sit back helplessly as others write your online story for you. You have more control over your online reputation than you probably think. And all you need is a purpose and a plan, and I am thrilled to have Satisfacts present this webinar today for us and join us today to learn that how you can change your online story and manage your online story. And they are going to show you something cool called their Save Them technique. And I won't steal their thunder. And we are going to jump right in by meeting our wonderful experts from Satisfacts. We are so happy to have them joining us today to present this webinar to you. Jen Picotti is the Senior Vice President of Education and Consulting for Satisfacts and ApartmentRatings.com. She oversees the client education, resident feedback analysis, action planning, digital strategy coaching. She's a noted author and keynote speaker. She's highly followed as a blogger in the multifamily industry. So I will let Jen tell you a little bit more about herself. And joining her is Leah Nicole Smith, who is the Vice President of Education and Consulting for Satisfacts and ApartmentRatings.com. She has proven experience in solving challenges for conventional, affordable, senior, and student communities. She's an active member of the Atlanta Apartment Association's Education Committee, and Leah has presented at key industry events such as NAAEI's Affiliate Education Conference. Her proudest moment to date was creating an online university and LMS with 70-plus customized courses, enabling employees to access critical training on demand. So as you can see, that pretty much defines why we call them our experts. They're experts in the industry, in the field, and we are thrilled to have them join us today. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jen.
Thank you so much, Janet. We are so excited to be here today and be a part of a Grace Hill webinar. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to everyone at Grace Hill for inviting us to be here and talking about a topic that has become near and dear to our hearts. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, this wasn't even a part of our conversation. And now it's one of those things that if you're ignoring it, you're in trouble. But I don't think we're ignoring it. I think that everyone has realized this is a part of the background now. This is just part of our industry, and so how are we going to make the most of it? So the question that instantly comes to mind is, do ratings and reviews matter? It's a valid question, and I think there has been a little bit of conversation recently. I've seen on Multifamily Insiders and a couple other places of, is it really as impactful as all the hype is leading us to believe, or is it just one of those other things that, we've got to juggle it in the background somewhere? And as a matter of fact, about nearly 46% of all renters will look to online ratings and reviews when they're looking for an apartment. And this is based on the very newest, latest data from our online renter study that has just concluded. We're just in the process of writing the white paper and writing the ebook on this topic. So you are the first ones to hear this information, and we're very excited to be sharing it here. But nearly 50% of all renters, they're looking to online ratings and reviews when they're looking at apartments. We've got to pay attention to it. They do matter. And we need to be aware of what's being said as a part of our online story. The other question that comes up a lot is, should you respond? And I have seen some conversation lately online that says, it doesn't seem to be, make a big difference if we're not responding. So I'm kind of experimenting to see if it's going to matter in the long run. What we learned from this latest study, again, this is fresh from like just the past few days and weeks. What we've learned is that when you do respond, if I click the right button, before I reveal it, I almost gave away the whole thing. I think we're going to have a poll first. What do you think? Do you respond to your online reviews? Maybe not every review, but do you in general respond to your online review? And Jana, I'll let you manage the poll here, and we'll see what you think.
Okay, the poll should be up. Votes are coming in.
Ooh, this is exciting. Look at those numbers rolling in.
I know, they're rolling in.
All right, we'll give you 3 more seconds, folks. 3, 2, 1. All right.
Got a 75% yes and a 25% no.
Very cool. All right, so 3 out of 4 of you in general respond consistently to online ratings and reviews. 1 out of 4 does not. So does it really make an impact? And with that, we can show you from our study that based on this data, by responding to reviews, over 50% of online renters have the perception that if you respond to online reviews, you have great customer service. So instantly, you're gaining credibility with over half of the population that is looking at online ratings and reviews. That's pretty significant. 48.9%, nearly 49%, again, nearly half of all online renters, when they see that you've responded to online reviews, they have the perception that you, your company, your community cares about their customers. That's pretty significant. Half of those people who are looking at online ratings and reviews, they see a response and they think, wow, they care about their customers. They have great customer service. And it's interesting because we wanted to find the full spectrum. And there is a group, about 11%, who say, I don't really care if the staff responds. So only 1 out of 10 people who are reading ratings and reviews, it doesn't matter to them if you respond or not. So that other 90% do care on some level to see a response from the property management company. That sounds pretty significant to me. So knowing that there's an importance there, knowing that renters are really looking at that and evaluating that in their decision-making process, that lets us know, okay, we've got to do something with that. In order to do that, we need to have a specific purpose and we need to have a plan.
So if 90% of online renters really do care whether or not a property management team or manager is responding to these online reviews, we got to have a game plan. So we're going to start out with the purpose. There's a reason why you should be going online and responding to your online reviews. Not only do you have to have the purpose, but you have to have the plan. So we're going to break this down into 2 separate segments. So first things first, the purpose. It's a 3-part purpose. Number 1, you want to communicate to the world who's going to be reading that the management team is responsive and dependable. We are here. We do care. We're not turning a blind eye to these reviews, however negative they may be. And we also appreciate the positive reviews that we're getting. It goes back to the whole you spoke, we listened. People like to know that they are dealing with companies that really do care. They do care, they do listen, and they're actually able to bring forth those resolutions or appreciate and acknowledge the gratitude that's being shared online. Step number 2 for your purpose, you want to get across the team is committed to service. That's what we're here for. That's what we're all about. Property management is a people business. We may work on site, but we also know that this is where our residents live, where they raise their families, they're experiencing a lot of life moments, and we want to make sure that we're there to serve them every step of the way. And then the final step number 3 in your purpose, is that our goal here is a resolution. And that should be the end game for every review that's left. And you can really have a resolution to a positive review as well. It's just putting that nice little bow, that nice little wrapping on the review itself. Now, one thing to note, and I think we're starting to see a lot more reviews out there that are becoming very personalized. No longer that copy and paste, that Word document that you have with a list of templates and you just sort of dump one onto a review. It's important to make it personal. You want to tailor the response to the review whenever possible, and you want to write the review from the perspective of the reader, not necessarily the reviewer. You want to write a review that is going to be read by hundreds, thousands of people and really set the tone of what living at your community is like. So if we're looking at step number 3, the goal here is a resolution. We have to first define what is a resolution. So what's considered a resolution? For us, and you all have probably experienced this before, your end game, your end result is to take the conversation offline. You don't want that tennis match going back and forth and back and forth. And some residents, hate to say this, they live for the tennis match. They want to jump right in and respond to your response, hoping that you're going to come back with something else. Well, from a reader's perspective, readers don't want to see the tennis match, that back and forth chit-chat. They want to see the problem or even the praise and your response. The back and forth starts to muddle the entire conversation. It creates noise in the mind of the reader, and they're just going to click away. They're going to go look at something else. They're going to go read another review, maybe even another review from a different property, a competitor of yours. So let's just jump in there, respond to the review, but you're responding for the reader's benefit. The reviewer itself, they'll get the message. The message will come across. So we have the purpose. The purpose here is that the management team is responsive and dependable. The team is committed to service. And then finally, our goal here is a resolution. That's why we're spending the time to respond to this online review. So now that we have the purpose, we need to have a plan.
And this is where Save Them comes into play. And we know that we don't have enough acronyms in our industry, so we just want to fill in some of the gaps and give you one more. You're welcome. But we're going to start off with T in the word them. And T is all about timing. Timing is so critical when you're responding to a review. You'll see some online reviews that are from, months ago, and nothing's been responded to. There's no response. There's nothing there. The reviewer, the resident, is the one that's defining your online story. That's why we focus on changing your online story, because you do have the power to influence that. But it's only impactful if you respond in a timely manner. So you want to ensure that you're responding within 24 to 48 hours of the review being posted. And the variety of different platforms for online ratings and reviews, typically there are ways for you to be notified. You just have to have it set up. Apartmentratings.com, for example, if you're subscribed to the Manager Center, you're going to receive those notifications every time a review is set up. Now, some people will say, well, if I haven't been responding in the past, or maybe we've just taken over a new a community, or we've taken over ownership of a community, there are previous reviews that haven't been responded to. Should we go back and start responding to those and letting them know, hey, there's a new sheriff in town, et cetera, or, go back and try and correct some of that? The answer for that is no. Leave the past in the past. Focus on what's happening today. Set the precedent going forward. One of the reasons is if you start reaching back into ancient history, and online ancient history is probably about 2 months or farther back, when you start reaching back into those and you're starting to respond to those past negative reviews, what it does is it creates recency in them. And Google and all of the the search engines, they love things that are recent. So they're going to go back and push those previously old, outdated reviews up to the top because there's fresh content attached to them. So leave those in the past, let them be, and starting today, we're going to be responding to our reviews in 24 to 48 hours and keep the conversation current.
So the H is honesty. And the thing with honesty is that we're human. We're going to slip up. Certain things are going to fall through the cracks. There hasn't been one day that I've worked in property management where it was just fantastic and fabulous and not one ball got dropped. It happens. We are human. But the thing here with honesty is if you mess up, fess up. You got to admit to it. Admitting fault does not mean that you are just the most horrible management team out there. And honestly, from a reader's perspective, they want the honest truth. They want to know that not only are you willing to fess up, but you're there for that resolution. You are there for the recovery, and you want to set things right. It's making sure that not only is a resolution on its way, but you're communicating that through your response. It's so important that people know that we're human. Managers are human. You don't want to sound like, you have that sort of sitting on top of a mountain looking down at everyone. We're human. Yes, we messed up. No excuses. We deserve that negative review. And you know what? We're going to set things right. Readers can read through the lies. They can read through the half-truths. So honesty, especially when it comes to online reviews, is always going to be the best policy.
The next one is empathy. E is for empathy. And as property management professionals, like Leah said, this is a personal business. It's a people business. That's one of the reasons that most of us got into the industry is that because we like people. We like interacting. We find them interesting. We have fun talking with other people. And so we have to be willing that when someone comes in and they're upset or someone writes something online and they're upset, we have to be able to put ourselves in their shoes. It doesn't do anyone any favors, whether face-to-face or online, to tell someone you don't really feel that way. When someone says that they're upset, when someone writes that they're upset, they're telling you the truth. That is how they feel. Whether it's justified or not, that's something entirely different. That part doesn't matter. The fact is, in this moment, they feel upset because of whatever situation they're expressing online. So from that perspective, we need to believe them. We need to believe that they are upset, and we need to have empathy and say, okay, I get it. I totally get that you're upset, and I wouldn't want to feel that upset. So let's see. Again, work toward that resolution. We're committed to service. We want to resolve this so that you're no longer upset, or that you understand, or that you feel more comfortable with whatever is happening. Now, empathy is different from sympathy. When we have sympathy for someone, we're feeling that emotion with that person. When a friend loses a loved one, or someone has lost a job, we feel sympathy. We are sad with them, or we're extremely excited with them when something good happens. Empathy is just being able to recognize and put ourselves in that shoes and have understanding that they're experiencing the emotion they have. And so it's important to recognize those things online, be able to recognize it online and say, I see that you're upset, or I'm so sorry that this has been such an upsetting or disappointing experience. But by acknowledging that lets them know, hey, we're people too. And we don't want our residents, we don't want our prospects, we don't want anyone to be upset. That's never our goal. And so we want to make that very clear online.
And then finally, we have message. This is where, for me, I probably have to take a step back when there is a negative review, when I was a leasing associate, a manager, and someone would just blast our community online or blast the management team online, my first instinct is just to sit behind my computer and fire off a response. We all know that's not the best policy. That's not the best way to do that. So sometimes you just have to take a breather. If you are one who really does react to these negative reviews, you may want to just walk outside for a little bit. Go walk in an apartment. Get some fresh air, some cold air, depending on where you are right now, and then come back and compose the response. You can always do a dump, and this is where you go into Microsoft Word, you fire off every single thing you ever wanted to say, and then clean it up before you actually post it online. Whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that your message maintains professionalism, it's very concise, it sticks to the major points of the review. You don't want to laundry list everything because, again, we're writing for the reader. And by laundry listing, you open the door to that tennis match. In the message, you want to sound like a person and not that corporate head. Avoid phrases like per your release or it is our community policies. Again, putting that
those are the kiss of death.
Yeah, that's the kiss of death, exactly. You don't want to stand behind the lease. Yes, you have it, and yes, the resident signed it, and yes, they agreed to it. However, they don't want to hear that in a response, and the reader actually doesn't want to read that in a response either. So the message needs to be professional. It needs to have the correct tone. Make sure that the grammar is correct. Always proofread. Give it to someone else to proofread for you. And if they're kind of getting, you know what, that response seems like it might fire this resident up or add more fuel to the fire, it's time to write a new draft or revise it a little bit. So we have our purpose. Save Them is now our plan. So what we're going to do now is to look at 3 real-world reviews and responses that Jen and I have created to just sort of give you an example of how to address these types of reviews should they be posted about your community.
So this is just to get your creative juices flowing a little bit and seeing how all of these components can kind of be put into the real-world examples. So here is the first review. They charged me almost $900 after I left the apartment. They said the room was dirty, including carpet, walls, tubs, and everything. A trash bag was left in the room, and they charged me $30 for that. Finally, they even charged me $15 for 2 broken light bulbs. This is the most ridiculous place I've ever lived in. They charge you for cleaning the room and many other things that don't make no sense. What about the contract? No, don't even bother. I've never had any kind of issues like this before. Just do yourself a godlike favor and go find somewhere else to live. Their policy is BS. All right. So these are the types of things that we see online, right? People are very frustrated, and this is a pretty common type of review that we might see for move-outs. People who are moving out, they're upset about the charges, they don't understand, and they don't agree with them, so they're going to air those grievances. When it comes to these types of things, and this resident, they're talking about the policy. They're saying they don't agree with it at all. So there are ways to clarify the policy without adding fuel to the fire. So we want to provide clarification. And again, we're writing for the benefit of the prospect. Part of it is for the person who wrote the review. I would say 10% is for the person who wrote the review because our goal is resolution, but 90% of it is giving the world an example of how they would be treated should they decide to look at our community and consider our community as their next home. So here's what we would see. One of the great things is because we often see this whole issue of people will write a review and we don't know who they are. And so we can't really follow up with them personally to say, hey, let's talk about this, what's going on. So it's okay to call that out. It's okay to point that out. And so this is an example of how we might respond. As this is an anonymous review, I'm unable to address your concerns specifically. I would like to explain, however, the possible reasons why a security deposit might not be returned to a resident who has moved out of our community. Okay, so we're not saying per our policy, this is what you didn't do. It's saying, here's some possible reasons. Here's some examples. So, security deposits are to cover the expenses of any repairs or damages to the premises greater than normal wear and tear. Examples of these damages are crayon or marker art on the wall, broken windows, holes in the walls, leaving trash, or other items that have to be thrown away by our team. So we're acknowledging some of the things that reviewer has said. They mentioned the trash that was left behind, and we're pointing out, if there are items there that we have to physically haul away, our team members have to do something extra. As a reader, I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. If the apartment is so dirty that it's unhealthy or unsafe, we can deduct the cost of making it habitable again for the next resident, i.e., you prospect who's reading our response. We want to make it healthy and habitable and ready for you. We provide every resident an itemized list of deductions within X number of days of move out, depending on what state you're in, right? You'd fill in the blanks. This notification is sent to the resident's new address or the last known address on file if no forwarding address was given. Should you find that in your situation none of the above mentioned scenarios apply to you, or if you have not received such notification, I encourage you to contact me directly at my number so that we can discuss this matter specifically. So our message is very clear. We're trying to clarify the policy, but we're clarifying it without saying per your lease, per the agreement, per the contract that you signed. We're saying here are some examples. And we're calling out the fact, hey, it's an anonymous review, so I'm not sure if these conditions apply to you, but in general, here's the general process that we follow. So it makes it very non-confrontational, it's educational, and it's also reiterating to the prospect, hey, we take care of this end of it when someone moves out so that everything is nice and new and ready for you when you decide to move in with us.
And I think by not responding to a review such as this, where someone's just going off the rails about the management team keeping their money, it gives the prospect or the reader the idea that this is common practice at your community. Mm-hmm. So if I move in and I give you $800 for my security deposit or admin fees or pet fees, I'm not going to see a dime of that when I move out, no matter how nice I leave the apartment. So it's a great opportunity for the manager to jump in here and say, hey, we're not in the habit or we're not in the practice or the business of keeping people's money. We only take what we need to make sure that the apartment home is ready for our next resident, and it functions and it smells great and it works properly for the next resident. So you definitely don't want to leave a review such as this without a response, because again, it plants seeds in the minds of the prospect that, wow, that could happen to me. Maybe this isn't the right place for me. I'm going to go look at another community, or I'm going to go research another community. So the second example, this is one going back to honesty. If you mess up, fess up. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Cheap building should be, I'm sure that's what they meant to write, quality, horrible insulation, appliances are absolute garbage, the AC noise and performance is unbearable. Let me start by saying that any positive reviews must have been written by the staff. The overall state of the apartment is disappointing. I am appalled at the poor level of freshening up. It seems that very little was done, if any at all, to prep the apartment for its new tenants. Stains on the walls, old paint drops all over the floor, nasty bathrooms, stains on the ceiling, window door framing, dirty carpet. How can the management allow an apartment in such condition to be leased? Okay, so this person has unloaded. There's a lot of stuff in here. One thing in particular that I would not address, I would stay away from, and I know that you all have probably had some of these reviews being posted about you, is saying any positive reviews must have been written by the staff. Now, there are instances where you can defend this If you're, for example, part of the Verified Resident Program, you can always point back to the fact that those reviews were written by verified residents. But if it's anonymous reviews, they're positive, you definitely don't want to jump in there and say, no, sir, or no, ma'am, these reviews were written by residents, because that just, again, adds fuel to the fire. Now, here is a case where we did drop the ball. Let's assume we did drop the ball. What you want to do here is recover gracefully. Again, by not responding to a review such as this, you're giving the impression that all of your new move-ins are going to have a similar experience. So what we want to do is to shut this down as quickly as possible, get that resolution going. So the response example would be something like this. Even though it's a negative review, you've been raked over the coals, we're going to say thank you. Thank you for your feedback. And then we're going to work our way towards that resolution. It's disappointing to hear that your move-in experience was less than stellar. It is our goal to provide every resident with a home they can enjoy for years to come. At move-in, all residents are given an inspection form and are encouraged to thoroughly inspect their new home and report outstanding items to us immediately so that we may have the opportunity to resolve any issues. While we do walk each apartment home prior to move-in, we are human and may overlook certain aspects of the apartment. As this is an anonymous review, I'm unable to address your concerns specifically, but I would like to ask that you contact me directly so that we may do what we can to ensure you are comfortable in your new home. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. Give your phone information. Thank you again for taking the time to post a review, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. One of the things about this particular response, the third sentence, it is our goal to provide every resident with a home they can enjoy for years to come. That is a nice subliminal way of saying, we want you here for the long run, Mr. Prospect. If you move in, we're going to do everything we can possibly do to keep you for as long as we possibly can. It's okay to issue an apology and not necessarily throw anyone on your team under the bus. You see, we didn't name names. We didn't say the service team should have caught that, or the person who leased the apartment to you should have done a better job when they walked the apartment. At this point, it is what it is. Let's just work our way towards that resolution. And let's make sure that any prospects who are reading, who are researching our community understand that when these things are brought to our attention, we're going to get that resolution going as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. And the final one, too, and I think this is important, is the type of review where someone has something great to say. They like where they live. I think we tend to, as an industry, get so focused on, oh my gosh, we've got to do damage control on the negative things. We want to get rid of those. Yeah, that's important. It's important to be able to respond professionally to reviews that have issues, but it's equally important to respond to the ones that have something good to say. It's like if I went up to Leah and said, "Hey, Leah, I love that sweater you're wearing today. That is so cute," and she just looked at me and didn't say a word. That would feel weird. I would feel weird. I was going to tell you, that's weird. And it's the same thing online. When someone pays you a compliment, the appropriate, the graceful thing to say is thank you. And so we want to make sure that we're responding to the positive ones as well. So here's a great example. My husband and I have lived here over a year, and we're very happy. The grounds are well kept. The staff is awesome. You'll hear noise every now and then, but that's to be expected living in an apartment complex. Maintenance is good, especially now they have a new guy. It's an older complex, so things are a bit dated, but they're very good about taking care of everything. And don't hesitate to replace anything that's needed. We had to have our refrigerator replaced a few months ago, and they didn't try to put a Band-Aid on it as it was old and beyond repair. Overall, it's a nice place to live. Definitely check them out. So there's some good things here, and they're also mentioning that there was a time where things might not have been as great, but things are going really well now, and they appreciate the new maintenance guy. So we want to capitalize on the good. We want to be polite conversationalists, and we want to say thank you. So, again, thank you for your feedback. I was delighted to see that you're enjoying living at our community. Put your community name in there, and I'll tell you why in just a second. It made our day to hear that you have found our office and maintenance teams to be helpful, professional, and responsive to all your needs. We set very high standards for our performance, and please note that I have passed your comments along to the team. I'm happy to hear you found your interactions with our service team to be enjoyable. They are constantly coming up with ways to outdo their already stellar performance. Again, thank you for the great compliments. Please continue to give us your feedback, positive and negative. We take all comments to heart and consider all resident feedback to be valuable tools for improvement. So there's a few things going on in here. First of all, we're saying thank you. We're acknowledging that compliment, and that is just good etiquette. That's what our mamas taught us, right? Say thank you. And we're also reiterating the good stuff. You know, that our maintenance teams are helpful, professional, responsive. They're constantly coming up with ways to outdo their already stellar performance. We are reiterating or filling in the blanks for what the review was saying about our team. Now, it's important, and I think this is a good practice, when you're responding to positive reviews, and only positive reviews, when you're saying thank you for a positive review, make sure that you mentioned that you're so glad that the resident is enjoying living at your community, and type in your community name. Because when it comes to SEO, search engine optimization, those search engines, they're looking for new content. And so if your community name is there, that's going to go to the top of the search engine list, or it's at least going to boost it up and provide more positive content for the search engine to find about your particular community. So it's worth putting your community name in there.
So going with what Jen's talking about, positive reviews, making sure you're acknowledging them, accentuating the positive, generating gratitude, what we're finding is that there is a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. From our Satisfacts surveys, we know without a doubt there are way more positive, happy, satisfied residents than those out there with negative experiences. So the well is full at this point. I know online reviews have, in the past, had a negative slant. They've been those vent boards. They've been opportunities for people, again, to just rake you over the coals. Well, we're seeing a turn in that tide. Going back to our online renter study, we asked current residents, have you ever posted a negative review? 7.3% have been online to post a negative review about their living experience. 13.8% have been online to post a positive review. So again, we're starting to get much more favorable experiences, much more nice things that people have to say about you. And a lot of communities are finding that your positive reviews are starting to outweigh the number of negative reviews that you have. One of the easiest ways to get those positive reviews is just to simply ask your residents. We get thanked all day, every day for the littlest things that we do. Hey, I just want to say thank you so much for fixing my dishwasher, or thanks for holding that package for me. I really appreciate it. I didn't know if I was going to make it home in time to meet UPS. When residents are saying thank you, that's your opportunity to take it one step further and say, hey, by the way, would you mind going online and posting a positive or posting a review about your experience? If a resident has just said thank you, you've come through for them, you've been their hero today, and they are so grateful, do you think their response is going to be, no, I just want to tell you, I don't want to tell anybody else, I just wanted to say thank you to you? More likely than not, you're going to get a yes. So you can follow that up with an email. Just link them a link directly to your online review page or a card that has your information on there. You will find that residents are willing to post a positive review if they've been asked. And we actually have some stats to back that up. 61% said that they would post a positive review if asked by the management company. So if someone asked me, hey, would you mind, 61%, 6 out of every 10 people said, yeah, I'll probably do that. Now, out of those that we surveyed, only 15, less than 16%, had ever been asked to post a positive review. So again, that low-hanging fruit, it's right there. We're leaving a lot of positive, happy residents just sort of out there in limbo when we want to get them online, singing your praises, talking about how great it is to live at your community. Residents today, those who are experiencing what it's like to live at your community right now, that's the voice. Those are the people that you want to be leaving positive reviews for you, or reviews in general. You don't want the ones that used to live there a year ago or moved out a month ago and, again, didn't get the security deposit back, probably because they didn't deserve to get the security deposit back. So you want those that can really give an accurate portrayal of what living at your community is like, because that's what prospects want when they go online. They want the real deal, because pretty soon, if they choose to live at your community, that's what their experiences are going to be.
Now, one thing to note with the online renter study, when we did the first study of this kind in 2011, there were only about 8% who said they had ever been asked. And since then, we've been really broadcasting in the industry, we've got to ask, we've got to ask. So in that time, that number has nearly doubled, which is the good news. But there's still so much low-hanging fruit out there, but there's also so many more tools available. The Verified Resident Program is one of them. There's a lot of different platforms that have the ability to, if they're taking a survey, a satisfaction survey of some kind, they have the ability to tack on another additional survey that pulls directly into a ratings and review site. So it's worth looking into those options. So to wrap it all up and put this into a nice, neat package for everyone, we do know that apartment hunters get their information from many sources, and nearly half of them are using online ratings and reviews as a primary source of where they get their information. We also know that your online story really needs to reflect what your community is about today. So even if you haven't been responding to ratings and reviews in the past, you can turn that around starting today. People are looking for information. It does matter to them whether or not someone from the community is responding. So you have control of how that is portrayed, and you saw the numbers. You saw that it does make an impact on people. Only 1 out of 10 says, I don't care. I just want to read what the reviewer had to say. But 9 out of 10 want to see what you have to say, and it does influence their decision. We want to amplify the positive. You know, our moms always taught us to say thank you. That goes for online reviews as well. Yes, we need to respond to those reviews that have issues, but we also need to respond and amplify the positive reviews as well. Tell them thank you and reiterate the things that the reviewer has pointed out as being such a great, great thing. Also, we want to make sure that we are addressing and resolving any of those issues out there. Our goal should always be resolution. Our focus should always be customer service. We need to demonstrate online that our team is responsive, we are dependable, and that's going to be your experience, prospect, if you decide to come and check us out in your community. We know from just common sense, but also from data, what happens on site typically ends up online. So we can't change our online story until we manage the on-site experience. We're treating our residents like VIPs. We are responding quickly. We're doing what we say we're going to do, because when that happens consistently, that's when we're seeing the positive things go online, and that really helps with your overall online story. Now, all of this is just kind of a sneak peek at the course that we have worked together with Grace Hill to create on reputation management. This is just one small aspect of that. We're so excited about this new elective course that Grace Hill has available. We were so excited to be a part of its creation. So we would encourage you to all check it out. This is, if you're a Grace Hill client, if you're a Grace Hill customer, This is something that is available to you, and I will turn it over to Jana to take us all home.
Well, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Leah. It has been absolutely wonderful and valuable information. And on the reputation management course, I mean, as you just heard from our Satisfacts experts, managing your online reputation, it's critical to the success of your communities. I mean, I think we all know that. And we were just thrilled to have partnered with Satisfacts on our newest elective course, which is reputation management. And it's almost an extension of today's webinar. You'll learn, ways to be proactive in your planning, monitoring, engagement with your prospective tenants or residents, and the course will just help you manage your current residents and establish and maintain your online reputation. So it's really this episode extended, and we hope that you want to learn more information about it, and simply, contact us at Grace Hill. It's www.gracehill.com, and we can give you some more information on that. So now we are going to open that wonderful chat room back up so that you can ask questions here. So give me 2 seconds, and I will open the chat back up. Okay. You should see the chat screen again. We would like to thank Jen and Leah both, and thank Satisfacts so much for all of their time today and the wonderful information that we have received from them. I hope you enjoyed today's session, but we'd like to stick around for a few more minutes and see if there are any questions that you would like to ask Jen or Leah or us at Grace Hill. And just simply type it into chat, and we will monitor that and see.
Phaedra said that she missed the M on thank them. Phaedra, the M is for message, and I think the easiest way to sum that one up is every review deserves a response, but not a reaction. You don't want to react to a review. Take a breather. Maybe make a couple of passes at drafting out the response, have someone else proofread it before you actually put it online. You just want it to be as professional as it possibly could be.
I saw a question come up that was asking about, we recommended for the positive reviews when you respond to use the community name in your response, and then on the flip side, for negative reviews, avoid typing your community name in your response to a negative review. And yes, that would be my recommendation overall. So thanks for pointing that out. There's a question here. What would be the best way to keep keep track of reviews from a corporate perspective? And just from my basic knowledge, I can only speak from my knowledge, and that's with apartmentratings.com and the Manager Center. That allows you to have a dashboard and be able to see every time a review's been posted, and to be able to run reports and monitor it in that way. Someone else asked about, is there a way to respond to apartment ratings without paying as a manager? And yeah, absolutely. You can respond. Anyone can respond on apartmentratings.com. And even though it won't show you as the verified manager because you don't have the subscription, you can say, I'm the property manager, here's my contact information, and then, respond appropriately. So, yeah, you always have the option. You always have the ability to respond on apartmentratings.com. As a Manager Center subscriber, however, it will show you as responding as the manager, and it gives you a lot more functionality as far as posting photos of your community and all those types of things as well. So that was a very good question.
Jen, I think we had another question up here. Well, I'm losing it as they all come in here.
I know, they're flying in.
Yeah, they are flying in, and I wanted to get back to this one. Okay, well, I can answer the Grace Hill one right now. The course is available. Reputation Management course is available, and yes, you can find it in the Learning Center. It is an elective course. So it is not an essentials course for those of you who are Grace Hill clients. It is an elective course, which means that it does have an additional fee for it. And let's see. Okay, Jen, this is the one I was looking at. How do you respond to negative reviews that are made when you take over a new manager's position and the residents are mad?
Oh, because they maybe liked the previous manager and
exactly. That's what it sounds like.
The new sheriff in town. You know, as with everything, whether you are a new manager of a community, a new manager of a team, if you're the new kid on the block, you're often going to be met with suspicion, sometimes resentment, because they liked the way it was before. And so it is your job. You've got to do a little bit of PR for yourself. And it starts with the on-site experience. You can't go directly, you can't rely, let me change my approach, you can't rely on your response to the online situation alone. You have to be managing it on both fronts and ensuring that the on-site experience that you're providing for those residents on a daily basis is the very best it can possibly be. Now, maybe you have to enforce things a little bit differently than the previous manager did. We can still enforce things and show that this is for the good of the community. This is because we care about everything that's going on, but making yourselves be approachable. We are responsive and dependable. We're all about customer service. And if you can show your consistency and your reliability and your friendliness, because they've got to like you. And maybe if they start out not liking you just because you're not the old manager, that's one thing. But if you can demonstrate your willingness to be of service, that tide is going to change, sometimes more slowly than we like, but it is going to change, and you're going to start seeing the online story reflect that. But it does take some elbow grease, you know. We're not going to lie. But that's in any situation as being a newbie sometime. But hang in there, because I know it can definitely be tough.
Yeah, and I think from a reader's perspective, because that's kind of what we were talking about, writing the response for the reader, we have to give the reader some credit, you know. And if the reader sees that someone's just venting because this new manager is mean, she won't let me waive my late fee, or, you know, whatever the scenario is, if your response is positive, it stays consistent, it's very professional, the reader's going to give you that credit. You know, they're going to be like, okay, this person just is upset because, as Jen said, there's a new sheriff in town. How bad can this manager really be? I mean, she's actually in here responding professionally to all of the negative things that are being said about her. So, again, it's just hopefully those things will die down over time. And as Jen said, it's not going to happen overnight. But we got to give the reader some credit when they're looking at these reviews. They take everything with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, Jen and Leah, there's one that kind of piggybacks on that question. How would you respond if you know who the resident is and you have been in contact with them on a continuous basis to find a solution, but they just bash you on every single site, no matter what? Any recommendations or advice on that?
Yeah, we come across this, you know, quite a bit. It happens out there. Unfortunately, it's kind of part of the game. And again, like what Leah said, give the reader a little bit of credit, because to us it feels like a knife in the heart every time we see it. We're just like, oh my gosh, still or again, you know. It's just like, how much time do you have on your hands? But give the reader some credit, because you've read reviews. You can spot the crazies in a second, you know, whether you're reading a review for a vacuum cleaner or for a vacation rental. You know, you'll read some of the things and you're just like, oh my gosh, this person has a screw loose, or, you know, they have way too much time on their hands. So the reader gets it. And as long as you're able to respond one time, like Leah said, you know, attempt to take it offline, don't engage in the tennis match. You can say, you know, I'm sorry that you're so frustrated by this situation. I always have an open door policy. You're welcome to give me a call or stop by at any time. I would be happy to discuss the situation again. you know, and leave it at that, because again, the reader's going to look at at their responses and their wording and their tone, and kind of write them off as like, all right, this person has other issues that might need medication or something. So yeah, but it's frustrating. It definitely is.
Okay, well, you know what, we are going to take one more question here. I apologize for those questions that have not been answered, but we will make certain that we get your questions and get them answered to you. But for time's sake, we are running a little bit over, but we have one that's come in multiple times here. On some websites have the ability to flag and review certain reviews. Would you recommend doing that or just responding? And the other question that was very similar to that, or same question, flag and remove certain reviews, or would you recommend doing that or simply just responding?
I think each review website has its own sort of list of user policies or its user agreement. If the review is in violation of that user agreement, it contains links, or there's some, information out there that could be considered spam. There's a list. For example, Apartment Ratings does have a list of enforceable items, if you will. So if a review falls in line with any of those, or it crosses the line, into any one of those territories, you can flag the review so that it can be reviewed by Apartment Ratings and edited or deleted altogether. You don't want to get in the habit of just flagging reviews that you don't like. I'm just going to flag this review because they said something mean about me, or they said something mean about the team, or they said something that wasn't true. We all know residents are going to say things that maybe they've been misinformed about, but that's where going back to clarifying the policy can help. But if it does violate the user agreement, I would definitely flag the review so that it can be reviewed by Apartment Ratings or Yelp or Google or Yahoo, wherever that review may be posted.
And some of the things that you definitely want to flag, if they're personally identifying someone, if they have profanity, if they're calling people names, those are types of things that you should definitely flag, because you want to protect your team. You don't want your leasing agent's license plate number posted online for the whole world to see. That's not okay. And so there are policies in place, at least on Apartment Ratings, that have venues, and they'll review them, and they will actually remove that information. If it's personal information or profanity and things like that, they act on it pretty quickly. Whereas my understanding is like Yelp and some of the other review sites, they won't necessarily do that. So yeah, if it's something that you just disagree with or you feel is a blatant lie, that might not necessarily be in violation. So it's still important to respond. And like Leah said, clarify. That's going to be your best bet. And if the reader, again, you got to give reader credit, if they see that you're flagging a bunch of stuff and having things removed, and residents start talking about how, hey, there used to be, 5 reviews here and now there's only 1, what's going on? They're going to start calling you on it, and that's not the way to improve your online story. That's gonna take it down a bad path.
Yeah, a negative review every now and then, even though we don't want them, readers appreciate that. If it's just 5.0 gold stars all over the place, I absolutely love this, the reader's going to be very critical. As they would be if everything was negative. There has to be a mix. Obviously, we want more positive than negative, but the negatives actually help give the positive ones more credibility, if that makes sense. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. It's want
absolutely true.
Yeah, it's hard to swallow, but it's true.
In fact, when you have side by side properties, and one property has all 5s, and the second property has maybe 4.5 out of 5, most people are going to click on the 4.5 because they're going to look at the 5.0 and say it's too good to be true. So, they're going to click on the 4.5. So I think that is an important thing to keep in mind.
Okay. Oh, Jen, Leah, thank y'all so much for the great information, and I will reach out to both of you with any additional questions that were not answered. I apologize to any attendees who asked some questions here that were not answered, but I think we've covered most of them in some way, shape, or form, but we will make sure your questions get answered here. So we certainly want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy day today to spend it with Grace Hill and Satisfacts. We truly appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody. It was great to be here.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.